meeting. Would you please take roll?
Ms. Atkins, Mr. Hendricks, Mrs. McDaniel. Here. Mrs. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Stoffer.
Here.
Mr. Wyledge.
Here.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the February 21st, 2022 agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer,
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge,
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. Commendation and good news.
And Dave's got some things to share with us this evening.
I do have several. The first is from our head cheer coach, Liz Heidreck. It's the second year they've done this, the Titan Princess Ball, and there are some real cute pictures that she sent of kids really enjoying themselves. Had about 200 folks there, kids and dads and uncles and grandpas and some grandmas and moms too, right? They really did enjoy themselves, as you can see. And there's the cheerleading squad that sponsored the event, and there's other some videos and things in that folder as well, if you'd like. In addition, we had our Trade Exploration Day last week. 500 kids from 10 different schools were able to be there, and so there's a nice set of pictures from our Facebook post of the event of that day. It's always a good day. Lots of good exposure for kids to the trades. We were again recognized at the state level for our STEM program, specifically our Titan Plastics program. Interestingly, this year, they did have one student speak at the event, and it happened to be one of our middle school kids who was picked to speak, and so this is from the Nonpareil article that was published. This is Mr. Van Zanti, one of our teachers at the middle school. And week of February 7th was the National School Counseling Week. Interestingly, this year we did have one student who wrote a short essay and was recognized by a scholarship from the school counseling group in Iowa. She did a little essay about Mrs. Johnson at Titan Hill. And so there's a link there to give you a chance, if you'd like, you can read her essay. This is Peyton Vanderwoody. And then, as you know, our boys wrestling squad, we had 3 kids go to state wrestling, and Braylon Camrad, ranked 4th in 170 pounds, was taken out in the semifinal round. So good showing just to be at the state wrestling tournament. And then our girls bowling also. In fact, they went today. Do you know, Dr. Knost, how they did today?
No, I have not heard yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard it. Pardon me?
Oh.
It's tomorrow and Wednesday. There we go. Okay.
I will add to that too, they came out and 3 of our girls made the all-district teams, 1 on first team and 2 on second team. And then one of our girls made state all bowling team, and one of our boys made academic all-state bowling, so.
Awesome.
Yes.
I wanted to also mention that regarding our plastics program, they have been awarded yet another grant, which just, it seems like anything that Nathan Van Zanti and his cohorts go after, they get, because there's so much respect for our plastics program. So it's a pretty significant grant, and it's designed to help carve out some actual space You know, if you know anything about their plastics program, it's kind of just tucked in wherever they can make it work. And they approached me last year. They're starting to have a lot of attention drawn to them throughout the state, and people want to come visit. And they're a little shy to let people come visit because they don't really have a place to show. It's like, well, you got this over here and this over here, and they got the milling machine, they've got that tucked in. So they've been exploring some possibilities with some rooms in the building, space in the building. So that's what that will intend to go for. So that's kind of exciting. Also, not really officially announced yet, but I haven't been told that it's supposed to stay under hat. There's going to be a celebration later in March, but Lewis Central did once again achieve the status of a unbelievable workplace from the Chamber of Commerce. So 2 years in a row, 2 times or 2 years since that's existed, that I know of anyway, and good survey data provided. We had to have almost 300 people participate in the survey to even qualify for consideration, and we met the number. It's a percentage of your overall staff. And then I'm not entirely sure what precisely they analyze to determine if you make it, but again, the data is feel good data to read, and it really drills down to the nitty gritty. So we're very excited about that, and there will be more of a formal announcement. I really haven't even announced that to the staff yet because waiting to find more out about the celebration, and you know, people can go from the district. I think there's a small handful that go on the chamber, and then anybody else that wants to go for a $20 seat. It's at the Hoff Center, so should be a nice event at the end of March. So when I find that out, I'll include that in an update and definitely inform the public. But kudos to everyone in LC, because it's obviously not something that a small number of people have done, but a very large number of people convincing that it is a pretty unbelievable place.
That is good news. And then there's a number of states that have school board appreciation months, and I know ours is in May, but I know January, some states did have it. And then we did get a thank you note from a teacher, Tina O'Donnell. She's a 4th grade teacher, and she'd like to thank the board for your part in inspiring excellence at Lewis Central. I appreciate the hard work and difficult decision-making that comes with your job of service. Thank you for all you do. With sincere gratitude, Tina O'Donnell. So that was very nice to receive, and I thought that would be something to share with Good News. That's awesome. And because everyone here is here for the kids, and anytime we get thank yous, it's nice to hear. Anyone else with commendation and good news? All right, we'll go on to comments and suggestions. This is the first portion of our agenda that anyone in the audience or anyone online can put in a chat and address the board. Hearing none, we'll go on to our consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Sorry, second.
And we have an updated personnel sheet?
We have several changes to the published update. The first is the removal of this hire. That status was changed today. And then we have other ads that are marked with the asterisks in section C, section E, and section F, and section I.
Is there any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. Report 6.01 COVID-related updates.
Very easy, quick report tonight. And I remember another time, you probably all recall, when the numbers really took a dip, and I just didn't put a COVID report on the board meeting, and I think we got about halfway through, and Josh was saying that somebody online was asking, where's the COVID report?
Right.
So I'm a little reluctant to pull it off, but I definitely can take the liberty of making it very short and sweet. We are maintaining with our very low numbers, so it's good news to report. All the more reason to think it matches what the national numbers are showing. I cannot compare Iowa Department of Public Health anymore because they've taken it offline, per the governor. But I can still look at the CDC's numbers, and they're showing the downward trend. They did not report numbers today. They were not updating until tomorrow, since today was President's Day. But we've maintained our low numbers. We've kind of plateaued. I'll say this, being a realist, this will change tomorrow. But as of right now, with no students today, all of the positives that we have, staff and students, come off starting tomorrow. So at least for a minute, we're at zero as we start tomorrow. It will change, but I do not have any expectation that it will, that things are going to jump back up. We are trending exactly as all of the numbers nationally are, so that is very good news. We're going to hold on to that. Our intent, we've got spring break in just a couple weeks, the end of the second trimester, and our intent will be to roll back even more mitigation efforts to get us back to, even more normal
Yeah.
for the third trimester. And we're just going to hold our breath a few more weeks until we get through this trimester, and then we'll go from there. But all things are looking very good, very good.
That's great to hear. Okay, the next report, 6.02, mid-year report on K-8 reading and math achievement.
Dave's going to walk you through some pretty good data on our achievement.
It really is. First of all, we're going to be looking tonight at primarily, only reading and math, and only the results from iReady testing in the winter. We're going to look at it from a couple of different lenses, though. One from a screening perspective through the Early Literacy Initiative law for K-3, one from a placement perspective, and one from a growth perspective. So there'll be three different looks at the data. Some things to remember, all of these children data that you're going to see today, with exception of the kindergarten and first grade students, all of them missed about 1/6 of the schooling because of the pandemic. And so we need to consider that. We're still in a catch-up mode in large measure. We're doing very well at it, but across the state and across the nation, families are still struggling too. Our goal is to accelerate learning, to more than make up for the lost time, though. And then another thing to remember is that for many, the effects of the pandemic are lingering, so we need to keep those kinds of things in mind. Some definitions for you tonight. The first look is around screening data. Screening data is designed to identify those kids who are most at risk of failure in reading and in math. And so the thresholds, the cut scores, are pretty low for the screening data that you're going to see. It's around the healthy indicators from the differentiated accountability model at the Department of Education. That's the lens through which the DE evaluates schools and districts. So the first part of what you're going to see is around screening data. I'll show you some data that compares us to AEA districts and then to the state level data as well. Then after that, we're going to talk a little bit about placement data. Placement data is completely different than screening data, but it's the same test that we give. We give the iReady diagnostic, and it can be used in several different kinds of ways. When I talk placement, what I'm really talking about is a comparison of the performance of a child in a criterion reference kind of way to the grade level expectation. So if it's a fifth grader, it's how's the fifth grader doing compared to other fifth graders, right? Around the targets that we have for fifth graders. So that's the design there. And then growth is just that. It's what kind of growth is being made for a kid. Is it typical growth? Is it a stretch growth? All of our growth data are based upon where the child starts the race. It's all adaptive in nature. So if they start behind, what's typical for a student that's there is what we compare. If they start ahead, what's typical for a student that's already starting ahead? And so we'll look at growth in those kinds of lights. When we do talk about placement, we're going to be using the middle band there, the standard band. What it basically means is that for a student to be marked, if you will, at risk or yellow or red, they need to be performing not in their grade level band. Basically, that's what that means. So it's here in the middle of the year now. If it's a fifth grader, if they perform as a fourth grader who looked at the fifth grade standards, then they would be yellow. If they performed like a third grader looking at the fifth grade standards, they'd be red. That's a little bit of the definitions. Okay, the first is screening data. This comes from a product that the DE has provided for every school district in Iowa. It's called Panorama. It's an early warning system software. This gives you an indicator of how well our students are doing on the screeners in reading and in math. Remember, these cut scores are fairly low cut scores. In other words, in order to be not at benchmark, on most grade levels, it's between the 25th and 40th percentile ranks, right? Kindergarten and first grade is considerably lower than that. It's below 10 percentile rank in some cases. And remember, there's a lot more standard error when you talk about the littlest kids in the system too. So it's just tougher to make the statistics work in an adaptive test for kindergartners. But this is our data. It's really very, very good data. You notice that for our three schools, this is all of our kindergarten through sixth grade students. 81% of them scored above the benchmark. The state's goal for that is 80, so we're doing really pretty well. The data across the state, only 66% of the kids scored above the benchmark in the winter assessment. 81% of our kids did. So it's really very good. This also does distribute it for you by school. Remember, this is just a K-6 look, so the middle school data only represents the 242 sixth graders that took the assessment. Right? When you look at the math data, it's very similar. It's not quite as good, but it's still very good. 79% of our students scored above the benchmark, as opposed to 68% across the state. It's very good data for us. We use these data in I-Plan meetings, in our MTSS structure, and our multi-tiered system supports to provide interventions for students in reading and in math. It really does feed the system very well. And in fact, I was at Titan Hill for a little while today at their professional development, and this data was actually some of the data that they were trying to better understand and better consume at Titan Hill. It warms my heart to see buildings using data. I'll just leave it at that, right? So from a screening perspective, we're really doing very well. There's not a lot for for us really to dig in deeper with the screening data. So that turns us then to a very different kind of look that's going to look at placement according to rigorous grade level standards. And again, this is, if they're not scoring within the grade level, then they're going to be yellow or red. We're going to deem that they may need some assistance, some supports, okay? And this gives you a very different kind of look then. Some things to remember here. Just because a student tests in the yellow doesn't mean that they're truly at risk of failure. It means that we probably should take a stronger look at their context and how they're really doing. It might be that they had a bad day. We all do. Remember, this is one day in the life of the child, so we pull other data in to support the decisions that we try to make with kids. Overall, our goal is to try to get all of the kids to the point where universal instruction, the regular core instruction that happens in the classroom, helps them to adequately progress in the grade level standard. That's what the green is really all about. This chart does show a few things that is interesting. I'm going to turn my laser pointer on. Notice that at the beginning, in the fall, we had 33% of our kids score in that green band. Now we're up to 53% of our kids scoring in that green band. At the same time, we started the year with 29% of our kids in the significantly below category, and we're at 18% now at the middle of the year. Those shifts, moving from a category where they need support or need significant support into other categories where they can succeed with fewer supports, is exactly what we're trying to do. This is a different kind of a look at that same thing. The colors are the same, the numbers will add up, but it also shows you then a little bit stronger look. This has actual numbers of students. We went from 274 students scoring 3 or more grade levels below now, because it took that red band and it busted up into more categories. From 274 students to 184 students, considerably fewer students in that category. We went from 29% to 18% in that struggling category. That's very, very good. To give you an idea, right now we average about 13% of our students in special education in the district. To qualify for special education, you need to be significantly below your peers, right? And a lot of these students right here are getting significant supports then through special education or through English language services or through other intervention systems that are beyond the classroom, Title I, et cetera.
You can match that up at the student level.
Pardon me?
You can match that data up at the student level.
Absolutely, we can drill straight to the student. And in fact, that software, that Panorama software at the beginning, that actually it enables us to manage I-plans for individual kids. We take the data and we say for Dave needs this particular intervention. We map that intervention to Dave. We provide the intervention over time to Dave, and weekly we progress monitor how's Dave doing on that intervention. And we can then evaluate whether or not that is really working to provide progress for Dave as well. So yes, it's at the individual student data level, all of it is. When you look at growth in reading, our growth was very, very good. That very top bar here, this is a chart that looks at what the median or the middle student in our population sample, how much they grew compared to what typical growth for a year would be. So in the middle of the year, we would expect the middle kid to grow 50% or half a year. Our middle kid grew 88% of a year's worth of growth. So our whole distribution has been moved to the positive side. That's great data for us. That's yippee-skippy data, if you will. I've used those terms before. And this is the whole district. 88% of a year's worth of growth. That's like 4/5 of a year's worth of growth by the middle of the year. That's tremendous growth. Another thing to consider is what typical growth is by where they start the race. And so this gives you a little bit of an idea. 46% of our kids actually made a whole year's worth of growth already. Right? These are stretch growths. Stretch growths our growth goals are designed to move a kid more than a year's worth of typical growth for their level. So if it's a student who is 3 years behind, for example, what's it going to take to get them up to snuff, if you will? And so it's going to be a larger number. The 100% met, about 60% of the students by the end of the year, if they make their stretch growth goals, that's a tremendous amount of growth. That's kind of our target, 60%. Right now, we're at 19% having all of their stretch goals met. So it's very, very good. So overall, our reading growth has been very good. Our placements have been good. Moving from one category to a better category has been tremendous throughout the entire system. I've also got it broken down by buildings just a little bit. I'm going to move rather quickly through these just to highlight a few things. I would mention for craft, for reading and math at craft, you're not going to see any red or very little red, because in order to be red, you need to be more than a year behind. You can't be more than a year behind if you're, kindergartner, right? Okay. Our reading growth, very, very good. The middle kid, again, at craft, made about 3/4 of a year's worth of growth by the middle of the year. It's very good. Titan Hill, again, some great shifts from 30% in the red tier to 14% in the red tier. That's tremendous, from 35 to 53 in the green. Only 29 students in the lowest of 5 categories at Titan Hill out of 855 students who tested. It's very good. 88% of a year's worth of growth from the middle kid at Titan Hill. Again, that's tremendous growth. We're very, very proud of that growth. Middle school reading. This is tremendous data. We went from 44% to 33%, so we still got way too many students who need lots of supports at the middle school, but we're making tremendous growth with them, as shown by this chart right here. 55% of our kids have already met a year's worth of typical growth for where they start their race. That's tremendous. And in fact, the middle kid has made far more than a year's worth of growth at the middle school in reading. I think this is truly a function of a couple of things. One is the guided study reading that we've been getting after. The second is the way we've gotten after implementing the Calkins writing process at the middle level. We've got some tremendous teachers really dedicated to using data in their classrooms. They're really moving hard to challenge kids every day, and it's certainly coming out in our reading scores. When you look at math, it's very similar. Our overall placements, notice it went from 24 to 42% in the Tier 1 or universal instruction categories adequate for kids went from 24 to 17 in the most at-risk categories. Again, very good numbers, moving this line this direction and moving this line this direction. 28% of our students across the district made a year's worth of growth already by the middle of the year. The middle kid made about 60% of a year's worth of growth. That's more than half a year's worth of growth, which is what we want. Craft placements, and again, this is expected to be very, very low, right? Because you can't really be, this means that we had, I think it was 2 first graders who were still pre-kindergarten in math. It was 3, excuse me, it was 3. Craft math growth, middle student at 72%, almost 3/4 of a year by the middle of the year, by winter. Titan Hill, again, very similar in pattern, just not quite as large a magnitude as it was in reading. I have to say I'm real proud of the Titan Hill staff. They have gone after math in a significant way. They're developing I-plans for every one of their students who are struggling in math. They've dived in head first, all in on providing interventions for students in math as well as in reading. And as you can see, it's making a significant difference for kids. 55% of a year's worth of growth, so just about what we would expect for a year's worth of growth. And middle school math, similar. Tremendous difference here in universal instruction, kids succeeding in universal instruction from 26 to 43%, and considerably fewer kids in the lowest categories as well. Middle kids making 62% of a year's worth of growth is more than 50, which is what we want. So overall, from a screening perspective, we're doing better than the state and better than the AEA in terms of our metrics. Our reading placements and growth, and in math as well, we're moving kids from category to better category in a strong fashion throughout the district at every grade level. There's some real standouts. 8th grade math, the median student in 8th grade math made 72% of a year's growth. That's tremendous. At the middle school, 125% for the whole building. Every grade level at the middle school, the median student scored more than a year's worth of growth at every grade level. So it was 4 grade levels in our system that did that. It was 3rd grade in reading, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in reading. It was tremendous, tremendous growth. So, to leave you with a reminder that it's not just about reading and math, right? We do so much more for kids. It's about helping them, helping their well-being, helping them to make good decisions, helping them to embrace the challenges of the future, to be adaptable, to be creative, to express themselves with confidence and clarity, etc. So even though we've got a lot to celebrate here with our mid-year reading and math growth from iReady, there's so much more that our district is about that we just have to keep it in perspective. So, any questions?
Any questions? On some of those for the ones that need help,
Mm-hmm.
are those also the ones, because I know parents, for medical reasons and everything, still kept students home. So how do they take the assessments, and would that show that they're in, you can drill down on students, correct?
Yes, we right now have very few students who are remote at this
Okay.
point in time, K-8. At one time, we were only at 11.
Okay,
They do take this assessment. It is proctored by Lori Camrad, who is our district program champion for remote learners. That's one of her many hats. She's a coach at the middle school. It's a very small sample size,
okay,
so I hesitate to speak too much about it. We do know that very often those students do struggle in significant ways. It's very dependent upon what kind of supports they have at home. Yeah, it's difficult.
okay. Well, I just wanted to clarify that because with the students that are, have gone to growth, then it kind of points out it's good to be in school.
Yeah, absolutely it
And,
is.
to be in the buildings, because then the teachers can work with them and get them to move forward with growth.
Yes, and I will tell you that with very few exceptions, our kids who are remote have struggled learning at the same kinds of rates as the students who are on site.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just such a small sample size that I hesitate to move too
It-
quickly toward.
Right, and that's fine. I just wanted to just kind of clarify that for me,
Yeah.
because I don't know exactly how many.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of proves the point that being in school is where the kids need to be.
Yes. And we can also, we have data that says, so was the kid remote last year? And we have the ability to disaggregate these data by those students too. We haven't dug deeply into that. We've been focusing instead on the individual student level inside the data around I-plans and other kinds of interventions, whether it's whole class interventions in some cases. We don't have a whole lot of whole class interventions happening now because we're above that threshold that sort of requires a whole class intervention in most all of our classrooms now. But yeah, interventions right now and building strategies to help individual kids is kind of where we're at with all of it right now. So.
Anyone else? So what's the technical term, yippee skippy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Especially some of the middle school data right now is
Oh,
just
absolutely.
wow data,
Yes,
especially from a growth perspective.
Well, and just
Yeah.
as a parent, I want to kind of speak a little bit about that. It's really interesting and amazing to see where my kids personally started, and what you're saying reflects what happened on their scores. Like they went from this to like this big amount of growth, and you're like, wow. It's really impressive that the teachers are able to do that with the kids.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
Another powerful thing about iReady is it's criterion referenced, and what that really means is that it's anchored on the kinds of expectations that we have for kids around the grade level standard. Whereas the ISASP and the old Iowa assessments that we had before, they are not criterion referenced, they're norm referenced assessments that are based on the standards, but yet they're norm referenced. They're designed to spread scores for kids. These are really closer to anchored around what the teachers are doing in the classroom. And because of that, because we're trying hard to hit the standards hard, and we now have an assessment that's more anchored in the standards, we're able to get a better gauge for how they're really doing on the standards themselves. There are other ways of looking at these data in terms of domains and things like that. We can say, so how are they doing in geometry as opposed to measurement and data analysis as opposed to algebraic concepts, for example. And that's the kind of data that CREFT was looking at today in some of their PLCs around these data too. It's good data for us.
Yippee skippy. Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, we'll go on to discussion items. 7.01 Chromebook replacement cycle purchase.
We'll throw that right back over to Dave.
This, as I reminded you a couple of weeks ago, when, it's actually been more than a couple of weeks ago now. This is designed to supplement the emergency connectivity fund purchase that I had you act on a while back. So what this basically does is supplement that order to include enough Chromebooks for 4 grade levels and enough teacher Chromebooks, brings the number up to about 80. Okay? So that's what this does. This kind of completes our renewal cycle for teacher laptops and for student Chromebooks. You notice there is a considerable difference in the teacher side of this, and that's because the processor speed, the processors are the big significant difference on that. So there's a significant, this one blew me away. I mean, really? That's a Chromebook. You know, that number just didn't make any sense to me when we got that number from them, but
So the
It is.
recommendation is from Riverside then?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the recommendation is all of it from Riverside Technologies. And just a reminder, Riverside, RTI is the vendor that we have used for all of our HP products for a long time. They provide warranty service for us as well. They're also the vendor that did all of our switch work this year. Around the HP items especially, they have been low bid for us for a long time. They're also local
Yeah.
in that they have an Omaha office. So,
And with approving this, how long will it take to get these?
well, I asked Courtney that very question last Thursday around the emergency connectivity fund items, and she expects some of them actually to arrive tomorrow
Oh,
from that first order.
right.
So that would be for 5-6 weeks, something like that.
Okay.
So I'm anticipating they'll be here with plenty of time.
Okay,
Hence the reason doing it now,
right.
so
Because
we
it-
have plenty of time.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Discussion? Okay. And now we have an employee request for other paid or unpaid leave on 7.02 and 7.03, which we can go into closed session by Iowa code to discuss this. It's 21.51A for closed session. Will we have to come out and go back in? I probably ask this every time, but I want to make sure. We will vote to go into closed session, then we'll come out and go back into vote again.
Yes.
And-
Actually gonna do a 3.
And then we also have 7.04, real estate discussion is also in closed session.
And just to clarify one slight technicality, 7.02 and 7.03 look like the same thing. They're not, but they fall under the same closed session
Correct.
category.
Correct.
But in 7.03, we're actually going to visit 2 different employee matters in 7.03. It's
Okay.
kind of like when we do open enrollment
Right.
matters. Sometimes we'll do 2 or 3, and we'll call those A and B if we need to, after we discuss them, and if there are votes needed on both.
Okay. And then we'll come back out of all those closed sessions, comments and suggestions, if we still have people listening, and then we'll go into our action items. So with that, for 7.02, can I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Schiffel?
Yes. Okay. session. And this is the second time during our agenda, comments and suggestions from the audience or anyone online. And we have none, so we'll go on to action items. 9.01 Chromebook placement cycle purchase.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Stoffer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of 225 HP X36011 G4EE Chromebooks and 80 HP Pro C640 G2 Chromebooks from RTI totaling $134,025.
Second.
What was
Good
that
job.
motion again?
Good job.
All right, any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 9.02 Employee request for other paid or unpaid leave for employee A.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Stoffer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve employee A's request as presented in closed session.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 9.03 Employee request for other paid or unpaid leave. We had two, so this would be for employee B.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Stoffer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve employee B's request as presented in closed session.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. And now for employee C.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Stoffer.
I can't enunciate because I have a terrible cold. I apologize.
That's okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve employee C's request as presented in closed session.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Items of interest, future board meetings. Our next regular board meeting will be March 21st. I do want to, usually during February, March, we do the superintendent evaluation. I would still like to do that so we can officially put that in your folder file. And but we might wait until like April to do that.
That's fine.
And then, because working on goals and things like that, we'll have that for Dr. Hazing coming in. So if that's okay with everyone, we'll probably, April, we'll work
It's
on
usually in
that.
conjunction with extending employment on a rolling
Correct.
contract, since that's not,
Yeah.
not a factor.
Right, right. Anything else? All right, then, we do not have another meeting until March 21st.
Enjoy spring break.
Yes. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, you can
Yippee
stay.
skippy.
Yes.